Hey, I want to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and I'm so proud and excited to say that I am at the 95th Annual Texas State Convention. And my guest today, he's been on the show before, Gordon Davis, but only virtual. I'm so excited to finally get an in-person interview with Gordon. So Gordon is the president of the Gordon and Joyce Davis Foundation, and he's also the founder of CEV Multimedia. Gordon, hey, just want to say I finally get to do this in person. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Adam. You do a good job.
Oh, too kind. And we got some books to talk about today. So Gordon and Jeff Burnside are the author of Cash Up Davis, The Inspiring Life of a Secret Mentor. So we're going to talk about this. And then I'm also proud to announce, come on, Gordon is in the very first edition of the Texas Leaders Edition of Mission Matters. So man, I'm just so pleased to have you here. Multiple time author, and we're at Texas FFA convention. How much better can it get?
Wonderful. It's good to be back.
All right, Gordon. So to kick off this interview, I want to know, because even though we've worked with each other before on an interview, how did you get started, or how did you first learn about Texas FFA?
Well, I was in a meat cooler in 1972 at College Station, Texas. I was a graduate student, and I coached the 73 meat team at A&M. And when they had the state FFA meats contest, then Dr. Smith, my major professor, had the meat coach as the official judge. And so I was in the cooler after the contest, and the ag teachers came by that might have missed something, kind of questioning the points here or there. So I got to corner some of the ag teachers. I saw a lot of passion.
Wow.
And a lot of teachers doing a great job for training teams. So my connection was way back in the early 70s.
And so where did it go from there? So you learned about the organization, then how did it continue to build?
Well, in 81, I started CEV Multimedia in the early 80s. And got a lot of suggestions for experts. Our idea was to bring the expert to the classroom. Well, when I wanted to know who the expert was on livestock judging or horses or welding or whatever the topic was, I'd usually ask some ag teachers. They'd know. Word of mouth, they'd know. And so we just had it. Then I've hired so many ag people.
Yeah.
The history of the company, which sold, it's still going on. It sold back in December of 2021. I put this in the book. We've had 17 different leaders that have worked for CEV that were also prominent members of the FFA. Many of them were state FFA officers, but there's 17, including 3 of the top 4 people in the company. The president CEO now is a former FFA officer, state officer. Another one, a national finalist for public speaking, is Clayton Franklin, and she of course was in FFA, and then a previous president was Jeff Lansdale.
Yeah,
he's from East Texas, and he was in the FFA. So it's been leadership carried right through the company.
Yeah. So I do want to go, we're going to circle back to CEV, because I know that that you mentioned that there's one of the pioneers in education, really bringing education into the classroom through video and other things. But before we go there, you are a living testament to hiring out of Texas FFA and to recruiting, talent from here. So there's a lot of corporate leaders that watch this. So business owners, entrepreneurs, executives that watch this, and maybe some aren't here, right? And why should they be here? Like, why did you choose to recruit so heavily in your career, and why should they consider being here and being sponsors and getting involved?
Recruiting these kids, you'd have to have an IQ of about 1.6 if you couldn't figure that out. These kids are motivated.
Yeah.
They want to work. They show up in the morning, work. I had one kid that used to come to work at 4:30 in the morning.
What?
4:30. Earliest I ever came to work was 1:30. But one day I got there about 5:30, and he'd already been there an hour.
Wow.
because he found a dead guy out hanging over the edge of the paved road. Said, "Oh, please, what are you doing? You're sleeping in?" I was the second one there, but everything happens. But yeah, showing up and get the job done, showing up and being present, and innovative, and are just competitors, because we're trying to make payroll, and there are some tough times to build that company the way it was. It was tough at times. I had some rope holders around, and so I just love the work ethic of those FFA kids. Always have, always will.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm inspired. I mean, that's why we keep coming back. Of course, we want to cover the story, and we want to spread a little bit of that FFA magic out to people that maybe haven't experienced it yet or haven't been to a state convention. So one of our big goals. So it's good to hear from a corporate leader here that's also very involved. Let's talk a little bit more about CV Multimedia, because as you mentioned, as we were kind of warming up for this, like all the kids, like all the members, like they're in one way, shape, or form like affected by it, right?
Well, most of them are use ICV in the classroom in the state. I don't know the numbers, but it's probably over 90%. It's amazing, the penetration. We went online in 2011, and with VHS starting in the early 80s, and went DVD in 2001, then went to online in 2011. Each one of them was a substantial financial risk, but we somehow or another made it.
Yeah.
And the platform has been well developed and pretty well designed by former FFA members. There are just millions of kids on that thing every day.
So I know, like a big word that's been used with some of the individuals to describe a Texas FFA member is grit. They got grit. Like they're going to get the job done. So I know that some, like last year, I haven't been on the floor as much this year, but last year I was talking to somebody, and there's some entrepreneurs. There's some in high school have business. I talked to a gentleman last year who he had a power washing business. I talked to another person, like they had all these little businesses. I shouldn't say little, actually. He was off the top of my head making like $2,000 a month, and I'm like, what, in high school? like power washing? And he's like, yeah, and I just do it after school, or I do it on the weekends. And he was telling me about his business. So maybe let's kind of pay it forward a little bit and talk to those FFA members that are going to watch this about entrepreneurship. Like, what kind of advice would you give them on kind of getting started? So again, thinking about that high school, they're just getting started FFA member.
Well, I reminded this morning at the opening ceremonies of our meeting this morning, and they recited the part for the treasurer. And in the treasurer says George Washington was better able to serve his country because he was financially independent. Well, when I was 26 years old, I decided to be financially independent.
Yeah.
And I decided I couldn't be financially independent as a teacher. I had to come up with one idea. And the idea turned out to be CEV, which was to bring expert to the classroom. But my advice is come up with one idea. You just need one.
Yeah.
And if it's not a good idea, you might try it, but I suggest you keep your day job while you're trying this idea.
Yeah.
And it is really tough. Really, it's tougher than you can imagine to become financially independent. I remember reading a book, and it's about entrepreneurship. Only 20% of all the entrepreneurs make it, the companies make it for 5 years.
Wow.
4% make it for 10 years. And now we've been in business 39 years. So, and we're well on our way. But there's those early years, you got to figure out how to make it. Get to the bank and get a loan, and go back to the bank and pay it off. And the only way you get a loan is to have a good idea. The only way you pay it off is good players.
Yeah.
You got some players. And boy, I like the grit. And I like the horsepower behind those kids. You can teach anybody anything, but you got to have the attitude to take it. And you need people in accounting, you need people in sales, you need people in customer service. In our case, you need keep behind the camera, editors. And you need executives. You need the guys that can make the deals. And now we're into making deals on a statewide basis.
Yeah, and as I see, and some of the other individuals that I've interviewed earlier in the week, they're talking about this idea that like the competition side of FFA and the idea that and how that translates into the adult life. Like to me, and let's just say not to stereotype and say everywhere is like this, but in the day of like you get a trophy for showing up, like you got to earn it here. You got to earn it here, and you get to have those early experiences of defeat that build character. Like that's what we're talking about, character, being a solid citizen.
Oh, absolutely. I've been on 147 teams.
That's quite a few.
That's sports, FFA teams. I was even on a beer drinking team. I was on 4 of those when I was in college. I won't go into that detail. That's quite a story. But I just love being on a team. And a team achievement is so much better than an individual achievement.
Yeah.
It's, you can get your name called off as high individual or third or something, but it's so much better to be on a team and experience all the kids and everybody working together. And some of the weaker ones got to learn from you got green hands, you got young kids on the team, you got everybody's on the team and all part of it. And it's equal credit for the whole team. And I love the team events.
Yeah.
And FFA is the best at that. And I even coach a potato judging team. I coach an apple judging team. I had horses, I had livestock, I had dairy. And when I was in high school, it was on a soils team. We had a land judging team, and livestock, dairy, and so forth. But I just loved all those teams. And we won. Yeah. And we got our tails handed to us.
But that's part of it. Like that's the
you gotta learn how to lose.
Exactly. The failure part of it, like that's part of the journey, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's business, whether it's life, right?
On potato judging, I didn't know anything about it. There's ag teacher's named Ron taught me. He's at Marysville. I was at Lake Stevens High School. He was at Marysville. First year we got 4th. And for the freshman, all you had to have a sack. We didn't have any money. All you had to have was a sack of potatoes. And somebody probably jumped over the fence to get the sack for us. You pull one out, tell the kid to grade it, and give a set of oral reasons. Yeah. If he missed it, it went to another kid. Next year we got 3rd because Ron didn't. I was getting better as a coach. Yeah. Next year we got 2nd, but I only taught 3 years. And I told him when I left, I said, I know you didn't teach me everything there was to know about this. And but I love the competition. I love getting better. The fact we went 4th, 3rd, 2nd. It was potato judging. Who'd ever heard of that?
I didn't know. I'm in. I did not know.
Yeah, but it's competition.
Oh, no, that's the thing. Yeah.
I had a tractor driving team. Kids love that deal. But it didn't matter what it was. We're showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd bring our livestock, our pigs and our cattle and our sheep. And we'd show up at stock shows too and compete at that. But that was just, but of course you lose more than you win. Yeah. But the fact is you're trying to win. That's the thing.
That's the key. And that's where I feel like some of that grit comes from. Like having those losses, learning how to, lick your wounds, get back in the game, come back the next year. How are we going to be better? How are we going to pivot? What are we going to do next? Like, that's awesome. So I want to switch it up a bit here, Gordon. I do want to start getting into some of these books. So we'll start with this one. So Kashyap Davis, The Inspiring Life of a Secret Mentor. So let me tell everybody that's watching this, I brought this all the way from LA so I could get Gordon's signature on this because they mailed it to me. And I'm like, you forgot my signature, man. But tell us a little bit more about why you decided to bring this work out.
Well, Kashyap, my secret mentor. He was born in 1815. He died in 1896. He's my great-grandfather. And you talk about grit. There was no internet around. There wasn't even indoor plumbing. And I thought he wanted to become financially independent. And they named Kashyap. He was named Kashyap because he paid in cash. And he wanted to be paid in cash. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to become financially independent because of Kashyap. Well, it turns out all he wanted to do is finance his next gig. And he took his family from Wisconsin. Then they had 11 kids, 22 years in Wisconsin, went to Iowa, and they were there for a while. And then they loaded up the whole family and went west. He wanted to go west, not for gold.
Yeah.
He wanted to go west, looking for a better life.
Mm.
And he found the Palouse country in Washington State, the great wheat production, the greatest dryland farming area probably in the world.
Mm.
Averaged about 100 bushels an acre in wheat, and never had a crop failure.
Wow.
In this, but he was a pioneer, and he got most famous because he built a hotel on top of a mountain. Another one of his ideas.
And I don't want to glance over that. You heard that correctly. A hotel on top of a mountain. And when you're talking about, I mean, that's equivalent to like how does that happen?
Well, everybody told me it's crazy.
Yeah.
I said, what are you doing? And he put first of all, he bought the mountain.
Yeah.
It's called the Butte. He bought it. And then he found a contractor. He built a switchback road. And to drive up there now, it's about 15 minutes.
Mm.
Rocks. And those days, they had to get up there on horse and buggy.
Mm-hmm.
No water up there. Hired a contractor to build the hotel.
Mm.
And what he wanted to do is bring joy to the homesteaders
Mm-hmm.
and people in an area where there wasn't much joy because there's the Indians out there and hardships.
And that's a hard
and
life.
the weather.
We're talking homesteaders. Like this is a long time. It's a hard life.
And the eastern Washington is 4 seasons.
Mm.
20 below zero sometimes in the wintertime. And but nevertheless, he put that hotel up there. And one of the things I've always remarked, he wanted to put a hotel in a remote part of the country.
Mm.
But today, that's where everybody wants to go. It's a remote part of it's somewhere where you come in on a ship or come in on an airplane or something. Yeah. And Las Vegas, the first luxury hotel in Vegas, I think, was put in 1941. Mm-hmm. So he's way ahead of his time, out in the desert.
Yeah.
And Bugsy Siegel was a man that was building it, and it went over budget, and so he ended up getting assassinated by the mob. Mm. But nevertheless, Cashup was ahead of his time. It opened on July 4th, 1888.
Wow.
But what the moral of the story is that we put in the book is chase your dreams. Even if somebody tells you it's pretty crazy. Mm. I would probably say, as an entrepreneur, that don't chase them too far. Mm-hmm. Just be sure you test your hypothesis, mm-hmm. and don't get in front of your skis. Mm-hmm. And grow your company, grow your idea, mm-hmm. and it just might make it. Yeah. But the odds are against you.
Oh yeah. And for anybody that's been watching this show for a while, like sometimes we're like, as the entrepreneurs I bring on here, we don't sugarcoat it. Like it's hard. Entrepreneurship is hard. Right now, it may get a lot of play in the media or be an entrepreneur, chase your dreams, this, that, and the other. But once you're in that seat, once you're doing it, I mean, it's hard.
Yeah, I actually mentioned this before, but I had got him Dean Allen as my accountant in the 1980s. And I was doing CEV part-time. I said, what do you think of this video idea, Dean? And he said, well, Gordon, I've heard a lot of ideas. He's a man in his 60s. So I suggest you keep your day job. I never forgot that.
And again, for everybody watching right now, you may be thinking that, video in the classroom, duh. But no, you're looking at a pioneer in that. So we're talking, you started on VHS. Like that was not happening back then. That was a new and novel idea, what we take for granted now. Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk a little bit about what it was like to put together a book like this for Cashup Davis, because there was an investigative side of it. There was a collecting artifacts. Like this was a hands-on sport put in this book together. I rarely see one that's put together like this.
Well, see, he died in 1896. Mm-hmm. So everybody that knew Cashup, they're all deceased too. Mm-hmm. So we dig this out of newspapers, old archives, films, attics. We had a group called the Cashup Crew.
Yeah, that was their name, the Cashup Crew. I was trying to remember.
And these are people that might have had something about Cashup up in their attics or something, found a box, and I had a bunch of stuff that had been handed down to me about Cash Up. And we just put all that together and microfilm and so forth, so on. Cash Up was known when they had a grand opening on July 4th. That was a national event in 1888. And there was stuff in the newspapers all the way back east. We found some of that. And when he died in 1896, we found a obituary in the Minneapolis newspaper in Minnesota. But, you know, it just is. But Jeff Burnside, investigative reporter, I give him full credit for that. He wanted me to be senior author. I said, no, I want to be on the second team. I'll be second. He said, well, it's about your grandfather. I said, no, you're doing the work. Yeah. And he's one that, to his credit, he dug it out. Investigative reporter like Jeff did. He dug it out like you cannot believe it.
Yeah. And for everybody watching this, by the way, or listening to this, pick up a copy of the book, of course, and you're going to see pictures. You're going to see all kinds of things on like what it took for the Cash Up crew to get this done.
So what my role was is that the family is, over the years have said, you probably have the most traits of Cash Up in the family.
I would imagine build a hotel on a mountain or a butte, and then, education experts in the classroom video. What? Like, that's a novel idea, both of them.
But I always felt like I had a little advantage genetically. I knew I had some Cash Up Davis genes. Yeah. And I just figured I'd figure out some way to get it done. Because one time I went payroll, we were about ready to go broke in spring of 2004, and I won payroll in a poker game.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we needed $3.6 million to pull off, to go from individual textbooks, individual video titles to courses. And I had $1.5 million. I managed to borrow $1.8 million. And we ran out of money in February of 2004. And 2004 was a recession. I had to figure out how in the world I'm going to make it until we got paid. And we finally got paid October 5th at 7:57 a.m., 2005. And we got paid $9.3 million. And I've been financially independent ever since.
Amazing.
And it's a tough, long haul, but we made it somehow.
Yeah. It's interesting how that works. Like I've had the pleasure and the opportunity and the privilege really to interview a lot of leaders like yourself on this show, and to hear these stories is so inspiring to me. And the reason is because for myself, of course, building a company, so everybody that watches this, mission matters, but also for the people out there that are maybe going through it. Like there is potentially another side. Like there is some good things that can happen if you persist and you just keep pushing and get smarter. And that's not about necessarily doing the same thing. Maybe you went through the pandemic and you had to pivot, and now you're doing a different business than you thought you'd be doing, or you use some of the resources that you had and you repurpose them, and all of a sudden your original vision maybe isn't exactly what you wanted, but you're still doing you just got to persist. You got to make it happen. So hearing stories from someone like yourself on, having that, that human experience of entrepreneurship, man, that's inspiring.
It's a grind. You start putting in 100 hours a week on the job. And that year we were going broke, my attorney talked to me about bankruptcy. I said, no, not going bankrupt. I said, well, you could get some partners. No, I don't want anybody buying in that's going to tell me what to do and want a big piece of the company. And he said, what are you going to do? I said, I'll figure it out. And I found a bridge loan.
Wow.
Mezzanine fund in Dallas, Texas. And we had $1,200 left when we got paid on October 5th, 2005.
Oh, wow. Everybody listening, there you go. I want to switch it up a bit here, Gordon.
Yes.
So let's talk about the most recent release. So we have Mission Matters again, Volume 1 of the Texas Leaders Edition, which I'm so thrilled that you're a part of. I mean, for us as a company, like, this is a historic moment. This is our first ever book that's done for a particular state or an organization. So we put this together with Texas FFA. So thank you.
Good job.
So much for participating, of course, and being part of this inaugural edition. We don't launch a lot of number ones in terms of volume ones. Our other series were volume 10, bunch of different series, but volume 1. And I'm like, if there's a state that's going to get their own book, of course it's going to be Texas, right? Has to be. So what are some of the things that you hope that the readers of this book take away from your chapter and what you contributed?
Well, I titled the chapter, It's Okay to Win. And Aaron asked me, what is your greatest achievement? Put that in the book. And I said, founder of CEV Multimedia is my greatest achievement. And so I put together 10 tenets of my career in the book that has to do with what it takes to win. And I put, I can name a few of them. Pursuit of excellence. I have no interest in mediocrity at all. None, including that chapter or anything I do. And then I put success begets success. And then it's all about the kids. It's important to give back. It's okay to win. It's okay to have fun. All those are some of the tenets that were in the book. And the chapter was actually okay to win is what we called it. But I've had fun my whole career. We never had much stress at CV. Even when the pressure's on, no, we still had fun. We had fun figuring it out. And all the teams I've been on and coached, when we lost, first one to congratulate the winners, we had fun competing. If we won, we might have a little bit more fun. But then when I see reunions, of course, we talk about the good times. And then it asked for advice. And there was one word that was edited out of the book. Your authors have got a lot of class. The first thing I put in the book under advice to the kids, I says, don't be a jackass to anybody. And they edited that out to don't be a jerk to anybody. So it's going to say jerk, but that's not my intention. And I can't tell anybody, I can't tell the kids or anybody listen to this, don't be a jerk to anybody. You don't have to be a jerk to anybody. I don't care if you're here and it's somebody taking your money at McDonald's. I'm apt to give a McDonald's girl at 6 o'clock in the morning when I go through to get my biscuit a bigger tip than somebody at a restaurant that's trying to impress me. Because a lot of times that you get to talk to them, they've got a couple of kids and they're there working in the morning. And they show up at work at 5 o'clock. I'm impressed by that. And so, and Joyce and I are lucky enough to have a maid at our house or housekeeper, and we take care of her. You got to take care of everybody. And so I don't like to see any arrogance. I've reached a status where I could probably do what I want to do. I don't do that. But I like to really take my time with kids. I really like being around young people. There's a lot of them here. The ambassadors have been helping me out. But I was a kid like that one time. Didn't have anything. Might have had a pig out there I'd taken care of. That's about it for a project. And then other advice was, look for your opportunities, sort through them. But there's a big list of advice, about 10 things listed there.
What do you think was some of the secret to keeping that fun component through these things? What do you think? How'd that happen for you?
Oh, I just kind of where I am.
Yeah.
I don't like a lot of stress, and I can handle a lot of pressure, but they can't tell. And if I feel I was the leader, if they see me sweating, maybe I'd be sweating. I was probably having a good time. It's been a long time since we're sitting there trying to making ends meet. I remember in the spring of 2004, I remember I applied to the city for, they called LEDA, Lubbock Economic Development Association. And they were there to help businesses, to hire people and so forth. So you could apply for some money.
Yeah.
So Kenny McKay came to the office. This is spring of 2004. And he brought a check for $85,000. And he knew me. He held the check out in my office. He says, Gordon, he looked me right in the eye. He says, Gordon, you're not going to go broke, are you? I says, no. And jerked the check out of his hand, called my county manager, said, Karen Kroll's her name. Karen, I got a check for you. Take it to the bank. That's no kidding. That's a true story. So we were having fun going broke. Well, we didn't go broke.
Yeah.
Never missed a payroll. We never missed one. Of course, payrolls are nothing like they are today. We had a few people, but today we have 160 employees.
Wow.
It's a lot of difference.
Oh yeah. So circling back to the FFA, Texas FFA, what keeps you coming back? Like, what keeps you coming to convention? Like, what keeps you here?
Kids.
Yeah.
It's all about the kids. It's just all about the kids. Some of them got their little braces on. They got their little jackets on, and they're on this team or that team, and they're helping out. Just look at them. They're happy.
Yeah.
And I had a little girl named Lily from White House FFA chapter in East Texas over by Tyler. And she's been walking me around for about the last hour. I can't find anything.
Same here.
Yeah. And she's a lovely kid. And I found out she's president of her chapter.
Wow.
And I just like that kid. And you get talking to him. And, I remember being 16 one time, been 1,000 years ago, but I remember that. But it just quite a.
Yeah. It's interesting to me because I think they look at us as adults and they're kind of thinking about like we're the ones that, to learn from. But I learn so much from them and I get so filled up from being here. It's so interesting to me because I always think that, okay, I'll, answer their questions, do everything else. But when I get to talking to them and hearing about their stories, like they're the ones filling me up, to be honest. I
had tears in my eyes, like I said before, when I retired from Texas Tech University on May 12th, 1990. I was a tenured associate professor at the time. But I knew I was going to go to CEV and hire young people. So I was going to get to be around young people, except they're going to be employees instead of students. And we've had some dandies. We've had some ringers. I made some players. And that's what it took.
Well, Gordon, I just have to say it's really been an honor to get to do an in-person interview with you. Finally, I had to track you down or send my tracker. Speaking of FFA, Sean was out there working, finding you. I was like, we got to get Gordon before he goes. So really appreciate you coming into town and also obviously doing this interview. For everybody that's watching, just one more time, go grab a copy of this, Cash Up Davis, The Inspiring Life of a Secret Mentor. And of course, you already know this one. So make sure you grab a copy of this if you haven't already. And Gordon, seriously, really been a pleasure to have you back on the show. Thank you.
Both books are on Amazon.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You do a good job. You're a pro.